Hi guys, in this video I am going to be looking at the Copywork narration and dictation that it has in the first language lessons levels 2 and 3 and trying to compare that to what you can get if you were to purchase the Writing with Ease curriculum. This is in response to a question that I got recently on one of my videos. But there are a few things that I wanted to say first. Now, firstly, the company do state on their website, and I'll put that link below, that when you're using these curriculums, they are not necessarily made in such a way where you have to use the levels like coinciding. In other words, a child does not need to be in level 2 of Writing with Ease at the same time that they're using level 2 first language lessons, and so on and so on for all 4 levels if you did all 4. That's the first thing. So I would make sure and put that link below. Secondly, I do understand that this is definitely a grammar curriculum focusing on grammar with just a few narrations and dictation exercises sprinkled throughout, more in the level 2 as opposed to the level 3. However, I am going to try to attempt to respond to the question that I got and give someone the opportunity to be able to see if what it has available in here, if it's going to meet if it's going to meet their needs. Now, I did make another video basically about the same thing, but where I gave more of my personal perspective on the matter. It's a bit of a longer video. However, I would link it below depending on if it comes out the same time that I am putting out this video. But I did tape that one first. However, in this video, I'm going to do more of a flip through of selected chapters and try my very best to make that comparison as best as I can do it. All right, so I am going to start with level 2. Now, before I go through and show some selected chapters, I went through the table of contents and tried to quantify the amount of copywork, story narrations, and dictations that you can find within the level 2. So one, you can kind of have an idea of how much that you have to work with, and also just to kind of give a comparison as to how much it has in comparison to this book, which of course the entire thing is filled with story narrations, dictations, and copywork. All right, so within each these are inside of the grammar lesson for whatever day it is or whatever lesson it is. So there are 29 copywork exercises, 7 story narrations, there are a few picture narrations as well, there are 6 picture narrations, and then 28 dictation exercises. So that's the amount that you can find in here. Now, of course, you can add, you can use a lesson and, do a dictation or copywork from, that lesson if you so choose. But those are the ones that are like actually laid out for you. In my opinion, I think that the story narrations and dictations in the first language lessons is more focused or geared towards reinforcing the lesson that they did, and not necessarily meant to test the child as opposed to those that are in the Writing with Ease. But of course, you can make that choice for yourself. All right, so the first lesson in Writing with Ease is going to be a narration exercise. They are going to listen to you read The Owl and the Grasshopper. Then their job is to attempt to respond in complete sentences, and of course, if they're having problems, you will guide them gently so that they can try to achieve that. Then they're also going to give summarizing their first attempt. So that's the very first lesson, week 1, day 1 of Writing with Ease. The first narration exercise in the first language lessons level 2 doesn't take place until about lesson 9. I think it's lesson 9. Yes, right, but we'll get back to that. All right, so if we go to lesson 2, we have our first copywork exercise, and they're going to be writing some lines from the Goops, right? My kids love this little poem. All right, so they're going to do the lesson, and then they have choices. You have these 3 as choices that they can do for copywork. And if we looked at week 1, day 2, because day 2 is the dedicated day for copywork in the level 2 until about 26, 27. One out of those weeks where they don't do copywork anymore. They just have 2 days dedicated to dictation exercises. So day 2, this is going to be their copywork exercise, or you have a choice from these 3. All right. So that is going to be copywork. If we looked at the dictation exercise, not dictation, narration. So we look at lesson 9, and they have their first attempt at story narration in this first language lesson. It is explained to you as if you are not even using this. So it explains to you, the parent, exactly how it is to carry out story narrations with them. So they're going to listen to the camel's nose, and again, give an attempt at responding in complete sentences. They are not working on summary. They are just, going to try to respond in complete sentences. Still looking at week 1, day 4, the narration exercise is going to be taken from The Fox and the Stork. So they are going to listen to you read from The Fox and the Stork, and again, respond in complete sentences, give summarizing an attempt. If we looked at a different week, week 5, this is going to be another narration exercise, and this is from Misty of Chincoteague. If I butchered that, I'm sorry. I'm probably not going to say it again, but that is what they're going to be listening to, and they are going to attempt again responding complete sentences and also summarizing, right? So that is going to be narration. We have another example of a copywork exercise. So this is lesson 15. They're going to do the exercise for the day, and then they're going to go back to a poem that they did prior and use that as copywork. So this is lesson 11. So they tend to do that a lot in the first language lessons, where they would either go back to a prior lesson, or they would use some lines from the current lessons as copywork or dictation, as a means of either reviewing or reinforcing what it is they just learned. So for this one, for lesson 15, they go back and they use the couplet or the 2 lines here that talks about March, and this is going to be their copywork lesson 15, but they're using the lesson 11. This is going to be their copywork in Writing with Ease, and that is week 5. All right, so let's look at a dictation exercise. So that was their first narration exercise, was lesson 9. Their first narration exercise is going to be in lesson 22. So lesson 22, again, they explain introducing dictation as if you aren't even using this. So you, the parent, have all the information that you need to work with. And after the lesson, this is going to be their narration, their dictation exercise. March is a windy month. Okay, so that's it. Of course, you can use either. I believe you can use either of these sentences, but the last one, they say to write a sentence on your own paper. The last one is March is a windy month. Okay, so that is going to be their dictation exercise. If we looked at the same week 5, this is what their dictation exercise is going to look like. So they either have a choice of, in my opinion, any of these sentences that the student says out loud. They can use that as the dictation, right? Or they have this here as their dictation exercise for week 5. If we go a little further on to week probably 10, so you can see that their dictation exercises in the Writing with Ease, they're really being challenged. All right, so this is going to be a dictation exercise from Writing with Ease, week 10, day 3, and this is what they are going to attempt as dictation. If we looked at 26, they start combining dictation with copywork. So after the lesson, again, they're going to go back to that same poem that we went back to in lesson 11, but they're going to write another couplet, the one that deals with September. So they're going to go back and they're going to write that. And we're still doing copywork in Writing with Ease at this time. So week 10, day 2. Week 10, day 2. So this is what their couplet is, or sorry, they're going to be writing these 2 lines. This is what the copywork is going to look like in Writing with Ease. Okay. Let's go a little further down. Another dictation exercise. They're going to, the chapter, sorry, deals with dinosaurs. At the end, they have a choice out of these sentences. Now, the thing with first language lessons, when they are writing the dictation, the dictated sentences, they are not expected to know how to spell all of the words. If it is they don't know, it actually tells you to, help them with the spelling, because it is not necessarily meant for spelling. Of course, you can choose to do that, but I'm just, saying that. So this is the dictation exercise in week, and this is lesson 52. Let's turn to another week. And that's dictation. So if we look at the dictation for week 15, day 3, we see that this is what they are going to be dictating. Right? So after you read this to them a couple times, they are then going to try to write that down. Okay? These are the choices you have in first language lessons. All right, so let's look at another narration exercise in first language lessons. All right, so this story here that they're going to listen to is The 3 Bears. So, of course, a pretty common story. If nothing else, they're definitely going to enjoy this story. Well, they're probably going to enjoy the story, right? And it's also going to give them a little bit of confidence, because maybe if they heard it before, it's going to help them with, formulating their answers. So, give them a little bit of confidence in trying to respond in complete sentences, right? Again, they're not working on summarizing. They are just going to listen to the story and then try to answer in complete sentences. If we looked at the narration exercise in this same week 15, this is day 4, because day 4, as I said before, couples narration with dictation. For this week 15, they are going to be listening to you read from Mrs. Frisbee and the Rats of NIMH. Again, their goal is to listen, then try to respond in complete sentences. And again, they are going to give summarizing an attempt. You're going to guide them, and it gives you some, some possible responses as to what their response may sound like. Of course, it's not right or wrong. It just gives you some examples so that, you have something to work with to help them. All right. So I'll just turn to one of the picture narrations now. And this is an example of a picture narration that you can find in here. So this is a painting, Snap the Whip, and you can go online and find the colored version if you would like. And their job is to look at the painting and try to respond to questions that you have based on this painting, and of course respond in complete sentences. So I don't know how this is something I think that they're doing all the time if it is they're reading or you read to them on a regular basis, but it does have a few of them in here. So that's that. And looking at another dictation exercise, because there are more dictation exercises in here than narration exercises. So just looking at one more dictation exercise, right? We have the troll. So after the lesson, these are the three. This is lesson 90. These are the three options you have to work with. And if we turn to a further lesson, all right, that's narration. So if we looked at the dictation lesson at the end of week 20, we will see that they are going to be listening to The Story of the World Volume 1, all right? So a few of the stories in here, it ties in with the story of the world. So if it is you happen to be doing Story of the World, then one or two of the stories in here ties in with that. Also, some of the narration exercises in that level also ties in. You don't have to be doing it, but it does, you know, it ties in as well. All right, so these are your options for dictation in lesson 90. And if we looked at week 20, this is day 3 dictation. That's what they're going to be working with. So as you can see now, the sentences are a little bit longer, but also they have a lot more punctuations that, of course, based on the inflections in your voice, they have to now try to see if they can write that out. And of course, you can, you know, gently try to assist and help them, and as they get better, you know, adjust accordingly. But these are the options you have for lesson 90. This is day 3 of week 20. And a dictation exercise, of course, at the end of day 4 as well, will be taken from whatever their summary is of this story. So they listen to the story of the world, they summarize it, and then you're going to take a sentence from their summary and use that as their dictation for this week. Now I'm just going to show a little bit more of the writing with ease, because that kind of wraps up how much dictation and narration you have in here. Of course, you have tons more of copywork, narration, and dictation in the writing with ease. So I'll go to the last week, the week where it has the last option for copywork. I think it's 27. Yes, it's 27. So 27. They're going to have their narration. Then they have their last copywork exercise for week 27. And this is what it's going to look like. The last lesson dedicated to copywork. They have a dictation exercise and then a narration. Once they get to week 28, they have their narration. This is the Magic of Oz. And then now they have 2 days dedicated to dictation. So they're going to have 2 dictation exercise, and then day 4 is going to continue in the same pattern where they are going to listen to a story, they are going to attempt to answer the questions, then summarize it, and then you are going to take a line or two from their narration and use that as their dictation. So that is how it continues on from week 28, and it gets more challenging as they go further on. All right, let's look at the very last one, and that's the evaluation. And this evaluation is actually also available on their website, because the evaluation is also what you use as, I believe, as the diagnostic tool. So if it is you wasn't starting your little one in level 1, you would use the evaluation at the end of, say, level 1. If they pass it, they move on to the next level, and so on and so on. So you have your evaluation, your narration that they're going to be doing as their evaluation. Have some questions, they try to respond in complete sentences, and of course then at the end they have a dictation exercise as well, all taken from Peter Pan. All right, so that is going to wrap up my attempt at trying to compare copywork, story narrations, and dictation in level 2. And now I'll quickly do level 3, because there was definitely more options for those exercises in level 2 as they are in level 3. All right, so this is going to be level 3. And as I mentioned earlier on in the video, there aren't that many options for like story narrations in this level 3. And a lot of the dictation exercises, they are stated as being optional because they are assuming that you are possibly doing some form of, like subject or curriculum, probably writing with ease, where they are doing dictation already. This is the level 3. So even if they're doing level 2, they would have been introduced to dictation in there. All right. And a lot of the dictation, and not a lot, all of the dictation in the first language lessons, the focus is more so on reinforcing whatever that lesson is about, and not really about challenging them, in my opinion, compared to what they would be doing in the writing with ease. So it's going to be a lot more challenging, whether it be dictation or story narrations. It would be more challenging in the writing with ease. Okay, so something else to note is that all of the stories for the writing with ease level 3 is actually in the student pages. So because I'm thinking they are older, they're probably thinking they're working more independently, so they have everything that they need in their student pages. All right, so this is lesson 1, and this is going to be your first option for dictation. So you have a choice out of these 2 sentences, whichever one you think would be most appropriate for your child. And if we looked at week 1, this is their first dictation exercise after reading their story. So they would go to their student pages and they would read the story, the straw, the coal, and the bean, and then they would attempt it. Now, of course, if it is they don't understand, I think it tells you to have them read it aloud, because there's a possibility that they probably did not read it and they tried to do the exercise without reading. But they have their both stories and all 4 days in their student pages, and they just work basically more independently at this stage, possibly. All right, so that is that. So that's your dictation exercise. You have another optional dictation exercise. This is lesson 11, right? So there are a couple others in between as well, but this is just another example. So every sentence has a subject and a verb, of course, reinforcing what it is they learn in this chapter. Even if we go back to an earlier chapter, let's look at lesson 7. So they're learning about pronouns, common and proper nouns. They have a dictation exercise, but it's focusing more on reinforcing what it is they learn, circling the pronouns. Yes, they get to write it down, but as you can see, the sentences are a lot more simpler than what you would find in the writing with ease. If you turn to another week, this is week 5. This is what your dictation exercise is going to be looking like. So they're really going to start challenging them, with, this is now 2 sentences, 2 pretty good sized sentences with a lot more punctuations included as well. All right, so that's for dictation. Let's find a story narration. This is poem memorization with some more. All right, so this is going to be your first story narration in the level 3, and it's going to be taken from the Mongols. So if it is if you're using Story of the World, then they will be familiar with this. And so they listen to you read about the Mongols, and then you have some options of what you can do with this afterwards. Okay, so it's a story narration. They listen to you, you discuss it, you have some questions that you're going to ask them, and then they're going to try to respond in complete sentences. But then you can then take this passage, you can either use it for just narration, you can use it for copywork, you can use it for dictation, or both, right? And it states all of that here at the bottom, right? So yes, it doesn't have a lot of options, but you can use the little bit that it has in here to accomplish all 3: copywork, narration, and dictation. And they give you an example of what their narration may sound like. It doesn't mean that if they don't say this, that it's incorrect. It just means that this is what it might sound like. So, just to fully help you out as the parent. All right, looking in the Writing with Ease, week 10, we have another example of a narration exercise. So of course, in the first language lessons, they just listened to and narrated from the Mongols. And in week 10, after they would have read their story, they are going to have their narration exercise. And that narration comes after, of course, they try to respond to some questions that they're going to be asked in complete sentences. Then they're going to summarize, and they have some options here as to what their summaries may sound like. And then from that, they are going to then have a dictation exercise from there. Now you can write down what it is they said in the textbook, and of course, use that for their dictation. But I did not, I never wrote the dictation in this actual book. Okay, so, and depending on the student, sometimes you can even have them write, but of course it depends on the child. Please keep that in mind. Sometimes they can write their dictation, their narration themselves, but it really does depend on the child and if it's going to be stressful for them. But anyway, it is meant for you to write it down. Okay. All right, so you have those examples of some more narrations. So as I said, there's not that many narration examples within the level 3. This is another poem with an optional dictation exercise. And this is another poem. All right, this would be another narration exercise. So they are going to be reading bull jumpers in early Crete. They're going to be listening to you read about bull jumpers in early Crete. Again, taken from the Story of the World, but this is volume 1. All right, and after they have listened to this, same thing. You have some options. So of course, after they try to respond to some questions that you are going to ask them, you can then use it for copywork, narration, and dictation. So you can use the few options that it have in here to accomplish copywork, narration, and dictation. And you can make it as challenging or not as you choose. But as I said, there's only about 5 actual narrations, like stories for narrations, that's in the level 3. And if we go to another week in the Writing with Ease, and we go to day 3. This is week 20. So after they read their story and they answer, after they read their story, then they are going to attempt to summarize it, and it is going to sound something like one of these 3 options. Of course, it doesn't have to be word for word, but once they tell you their narration and it sounds, pretty similar to any of that, of course, that is going to be correct because it's subjective. And then they're going to use one of those sentences for narration. Again, you can write it down if you so choose. I didn't write in my actual text. So that's kind of like, the story narration. That takes care of story narration and dictation in the first language lessons, because I don't want to show all the stories since it's only a few that's in there. But in the Writing with Ease, I just wanted to point out that they also do a lot of poetry in this level. Now, to be honest, I don't know how much of this stuck with us, but the good thing about, homeschooling and curriculums is that you always have it. So your child may not take to something at one time, but you never know, they may take to it later on. And if you still have it, it's something that you can always come back to. So I don't get stressed about those things anymore. Take what it is you need to, and the rest, you piecemeal it. So we did as much of the poetry that we could have, and the rest of it, just gently left it so that we don't get frustrated. But anyway, so they do teach like a little bit of poetry in there. If you go back to the table of contents, in addition to the actual grammar lessons, you see they have some lessons on writing letters, dictionary skills, and oral usage as well. So just the point, if it is you missed that in the beginning, there's some other, you know, areas that they try to teach specifically in the first language lessons also. But anyway, so they teach a bit of poetry, and so you have that, of course, your dictation, some more poetry. This is week 21, so day 3, some more poetry. And of course, the actual poems would be in their student pages. If we go to week 27, again, we're back to narrations, dictation, narration and dictation, because at some point in the level 3, when you do the combination of narration and dictation, switches. So instead of doing it on day 4, you now do it on day 3, and day 4 becomes the dictation. And I think that it's done like that because the dictations are a lot more complicated or challenging in the level 3. Instead of having 2 days back to back where they are just doing dictation, they have it where they do the narration and dictation. It kind of splits that up, or splits that up, right? Because of course their dictation on that day 3 is based on their summary, and is a high chance that the way how they summarize is not going to be using the same type of, you know, challenging words that may be included in here. So that is going to be week 27. And then just to take you to the evaluation, and you have week 36. This is level 3. So you have your evaluation where they're going to be doing a narration piece, a narration and original sentence evaluation. You're going to write down their narration as again if you want to. And then they have a dictation exercise. And this is all taken from Georgie, I believe. Is it? No, Rabbit Hill, sorry. Taken from Rabbit Hill. Georgie is the character. All right. So that is going to be their evaluation. All right, guys. So hopefully that was helpful. I tried to be as quick as possible, but at the same time as thorough as possible. Hopefully that was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them below. If there's anything that I said that you disagree with, you can share them below as well. As I said, I do understand that these are not meant to be compared with each other. I was just trying to help out someone that asked me a question on a recent video and do so as carefully as I possibly can. Anyway, thank you so much for watching the video, and I will talk to you in another one. Bye, guys.